The corporate media's narrative shifting in response to widespread reports of biolabs in Ukraine is truly something to behold. At first, it was outright denial. Biolabs in Ukraine? That's Russian propaganda. But after quickly being proven wrong, corporate media stenographers shifted to, okay, there are biolabs in Ukraine, but they don't contain dangerous pathogens. When it was shown that these claims were also false, the media claimed that the labs may house dangerous pathogens, but they're not controlled by the US. When US funding and direct involvement with those labs was disclosed, the media shifted yet again. Okay, the Ukrainian labs may be controlled by the US, but they're just being used for research. This is the current state of our politically controlled media, and their efforts are eerily similar to their narrative shifting with regards to the origin of COVID-19. Hi everyone, and welcome to Truth Over News with Jeff Carlson and Hans Manke.
Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of.
Last week, Biden's Undersecretary of State, Victoria Nuland, was asked by Senator Marco Rubio whether Ukraine had biological or chemical weapons. She could have answered no, but she didn't. Instead, she expressed very real concerns that whatever pathogens might be housed in the Ukrainian labs might fall into Russian hands, and that the United States government was currently trying to prevent that from happening. The inference drawn from Nuland's answer was clear. Ukraine possesses dangerous pathogens in at least some of their labs. The chilling significance of Nuland's statement was immediately picked up by social media, but it didn't take long for corporate media to launch a counterattack, claiming that Nuland did not actually say what we all heard her say. Instead, the narrative put out by corporate media was that what Nuland really meant by her comments was that the United States had been helping Ukraine decommission old Soviet-era labs that had been active more than 3 decades ago. But the corporate media's narrative was laughably absurd. Why would Nuland have been concerned about 30-year-old pathogens falling into Russian hands when Russia, which had access to the same Soviet-era labs, already had those pathogens? And why would it take the US more than 17 years to decommission those labs? Nuland's initial answer remains as concerning as the attempted cover-up by the corporate media. What exactly is in those labs? Why is Nuland so obviously anxious about the Ukraine labs? And why hadn't the US already secured those labs in the period leading up to Russia's well-broadcast invasion of Ukraine?
We know that the US has been working with the Ukrainian labs for a number of years. And we know, based on documents from the US government, that while safety procedures may have been initiated at some of these labs, they were not being decommissioned. A 2014 Department of Defense paper titled "Eliminating and Securing Weapons of Mass Destruction" noted that during 2012, officials worked with the Ukrainian Ministry of Health to complete biological safety and security enhancement projects at 3 diagnostic laboratories. Importantly, the paper also noted that not only were these facilities not closed, new biolabs were either being opened or enhanced as US officials initiated design and construction work on 3 remaining diagnostic laboratories at Kharkiv, Kherson, and Ternopil. In a surprising interview, CBS correspondent David Martin noted that the Pentagon was concerned that the Russians would seize deadly pathogens like anthrax from Ukrainian labs. Martin also confirmed that the US was directly involved and was funding the work done in those Ukrainian labs.
But the concern is that the Russians will seize one of these biomedical research facilities that Ukraine has, where they do research on deadly pathogens like botulism and anthrax, seize one of those facilities, weaponize the pathogen, and then blame it on Ukraine and the U.S. because the U.S. has been providing support for some of the research being done in those facilities.
There are some further suggestions that the United States was in fact operating biolabs in Ukraine, including a May 2020 documentary which examined a new, non-Soviet biolab in the Ukrainian city of Kiev. We cannot verify what that documentary found, only that it was aired long before the current Russia-Ukraine conflict began.
It's these conflicting narratives that take us to the heart of the problem we're facing today. Ideally, we'd like to assume that it's the U.S. government who's telling the truth, and that Russian claims of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine are merely part of wartime propaganda. But over the course of many years, the U.S. government has burned its credibility and destroyed any trust. As a result of their lies, we're left asking a difficult question. Who is telling the truth? And perhaps more importantly, is anyone telling the truth? Although lies from our government are nothing new, the era of using propaganda to instigate major international conflicts has its recent roots in the Bush-era claims of weapons of mass destruction that were supposedly held in Iraq. That conflict, which cost hundreds of thousands of lives, of course never found any weapons of mass destruction, precisely because they never existed.
Let me take you inside that intelligence file and share with you what we know from eyewitness accounts. We have first-hand descriptions of biological weapons factories on wheels and on rails. The trucks and train cars are easily moved and are designed to evade detection by inspectors. In a matter of months, they can produce a quantity of biological poison equal to the entire amount that Iraq claimed to have produced in the years prior to the Gulf War.
While the Iraq WMD episode seems to have faded from most people's memory, the government's lies have not. And it's likely that the current issue of U.S.-funded Ukrainian labs would not have grown into the big story it has become had the U.S. government not lied about and covered up its entanglements with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. For 2 years, Fauci, the National Institutes of Health, and NIH steadfastly denied having had any involvement with dangerous gain-of-function experiments at the Wuhan lab.
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
Fauci not only established a secret group to push the natural origin narrative, his agency, the NIH, also spent 2 years stonewalling Freedom of Information Act requests that sought to uncover the true relationship between the Wuhan lab and the U.S. government.